Alright everyone, it's time for Antland, and I'm very excited to talk about the game and its ideas of level theming. As the game starts out, we're going to talk to Mr. Rabbit again. He talks about swarms and swarms of ants, and this is appropriate because this level is the Chameleon Twist equivalent of a Dynasty Warriors game. Mr. Rabbit mentions our name, Davy. That's the name of the chameleon we're playing as right now. There are 4 chameleons, and we'll switch to the other ones later. Here's our first introduction to the ants, and there are a lot of them. We can walk in between the lines of them if we're very, very careful. These, on the other hand, move in weird curves, so it's best to jump over them instead of try to move around them. And these green ants, they move erratically but slowly. They take a few steps, stop, and then take a few other steps before stopping. Just don't stand too close to them. So one of the most obvious things right out of the gate is the sheer number of enemies in this level, which is appropriate because it's an anthill. It's a big old anthill. So this level does teach you how to deal with large groups of enemies, but it also teaches you how to use that horizontal swing we can do with our tongue. We're going to be using that a lot. For example, these ants need to be knocked over before we can hurt them, and to do that we have to swing under their legs. And we have to make sure our tongue extends out far enough that we get to swing our tongue under them instead of our body, because if our body runs into them, we just take damage and they don't get knocked over. The ants in this room run at us as soon as they see us, but they weren't a big deal. Just keep moving to get past them. This room rotates a few times, and then some ants come out of one of the holes. We can't progress through the room until all of the ants are eaten out of the hole. It's possible to do it in one go, but inevitably you're going to mess up one of these times. Whatever ants are left over will be grouped together for the next wave, and then the next wave after that, and so on. In this room, the ants tackle us in pairs. As soon as they see us, they run at us, but this time there's more than one of them at a time. Jumping over them in groups is the best way to go about it. Just pretend you're playing an old platformer and you're jumping over enemies, and it should go fine. Here's more of these scary red ants. Again, just jump over them. Jumping gives you a slight boost in speed as well. In this room, we need to clear the pathway of ants so that way we can swing to these platforms, and then back to the main pathway after we get this crown. It won't work unless the pathway is clear of ants, otherwise you'll just smack into them when you try and swing over and you'll fall down. So yeah, it's been almost in perfect alternation, hasn't it? It shows us how to deal with big groups of enemies, and then it shows us how to deal with our swinging tongue, and then back to the big groups of enemies, and back to tongue swinging. That's what this level's about. In this one, we have to go against the flow in order to get this crown over here at the very end. It's not too bad, though. As long as you know that you can move your tongue around corners, you'll be fine. This time we have 4 of these big yellow ants, which is trickier because if our tongue hits them before we grab the pole, then it stops and retracts. I find it's easiest to knock over the yellow ants one at a time instead of trying to get them all 4 in one go. Alright, only one left. You also have to make sure that when you swing from the pole, your body doesn't run into any of the normal ants. That would also be bad. We've already had a room like this one, but this time there are more green ants, way more. We have to watch where the green ants are walking, and watch out for the normal ants so we don't bump into those either. It's very easy to do that. Even so, if we screw up here, the next room has some healing items for us. Here's a technique you saw me do briefly in the first level. We can high jump, grab onto a pole, and then swing around it. The game's going to expect us to do that a few more times, but there's also ways around it usually, just not there. This upcoming room should also look familiar because we've seen it before. Yep, it's this rotating one again. So while we're in here, let's talk about the level's theming. The level used ants for its theme because it wanted to teach you about large groups of enemies. And what larger group is there than ants? Out there in the real world, a single anthill seems to have infinite of them. So it's the perfect choice of enemy for this. They also wanted to teach us about swinging with our tongue. and learning to swing around large groups of enemies. And we already have the ants here, so why not? Here's one of the more complex rooms in the level. There are two groups of ants that intersect right here, so we need to clear up the intersection, and then march onward through the traffic. And we want to hurry up before the other group of ants gets here behind us. And when we reach the other site, we can jump behind the ants and march alongside them, instead of through them. You may think there's only room for you or the ants, but no, there's room for both, you just have to tread carefully. And in here's the last room. A ton of ants just shoot themselves straight out at us. It's like bullet hell up in here. And then the pre-boss room, which I don't really count as its own room. Let's go see what the Queen's like. The Queen boss is a bigger and badder version of those yellow ants we've been fighting in a lot of ways. First of all, in order to damage her, we need to knock her over just like the yellow ants. But we still need to have something to shoot at her after she's down. Thankfully, she does make baby ants, because that's what queen ants do. So, the baby ants are our ammo, but we need to be careful not to hit ourselves on them when we swing, or else we'll take damage. Each time we hit her, she swings around an extra time and tries to hit us. But that's the whole boss fight aside from that. I didn't get to mention it yet, but I do like that this level has an Egyptian theme instead of just being a normal anthill. That's the only thing I didn't get to say that I wanted to. But yeah, I think that's pretty cute. Alright, that was it for Antland, and I'll see you guys next time for Bombland, which sounds very friendly, very nice, sounds like a good place.